I am a shrew. The money my father, Mr. Lee Kwok Bang, had worked hard for many years was taken by my second uncle. My father advised me to let it go, but I went directly to my second uncle's house to get it back. Thanks to that money, my father was able to buy a house for my sister Lee Tang-yan. She gave birth to a daughter and was bullied by her husband's family. She endured it patiently, but I scolded her mother-in-law and her husband directly and brought both mother and daughter back home. After that, her mother-in-law came to apologize, and from then on she did not dare to bully her anymore. My husband was fired by the company for no reason, and he felt humiliated, so he did not bother to ask for his salary or compensation. I hired a lawyer to sue the company and get back all the money that belonged to him. He used that money to open a company and did business successfully, but they turned around and said that I was a shrew only knowing how to embarrass my relatives, and in the end I became the bad guy in everyone's eyes. Living again every time something happened, they expected me to come forward. I frankly said, "In this life I will not fight. If you are bullied, you have to bear it yourself." I was reborn, and I swear that in this life I will not fight or fight. My mother, Mrs. Trin Tu Lan, died early because she was too busy with family matters, leaving behind my two sisters. My sister was exactly like my father, always yielding kind, never raising her voice at anyone. The family's assets were taken over by relatives. When the land was divided, my family did not have any share. My father and sister both advised me not to be petty, saying that suffering losses was a blessing. I was not willing to accept it, so I brought a small chair and sat at the village chief's house from morning to night, and finally I was able to reclaim the land that originally belonged to my family. Thanks to that land, my father had money to send my two sisters to school. From that incident, I understood that being good will lead to being bullied. Because I wanted to protect my father and sister from childhood to adulthood, I was always unapproachable and unpleasant. The whole village knew that the Lee family had a daughter who fought like me. In my previous life, my father wanted to make money, so he went to the city to work for many years with my second uncle, and he left his salary to my second uncle. I advised him many times, but to no avail. In the end, my second uncle only gave my father exactly 300 yuan. I told my father to go get it back, but he said, "Zhao Ming is also my brother. It's not convenient to open his mouth." And so he only brought 1 million home. As soon as I heard that, I immediately went back to my hometown, went straight to my second uncle's house, and stood guard at the door every day. After several days of pressure, I was able to get back more than 10,000 yuan. My father used that money to buy a house for my sister, but blamed me for breaking the brotherly relationship between him and my second uncle. I criticized my sister's boyfriend as a man who clings to his mother's skirt, and that his mother-in-law was terrible and stubborn. I advised my sister not to marry him. She said that he was filial and that his mother-in-law was caring, so she insisted on getting married. The result was, as I expected, after giving birth to a daughter, she was scolded by her mother-in-law right in the hospital. This kind of woman who can't give birth to a son returns the dowry. "Let's get a divorce." I couldn't stand it anymore, slapped her on the spot, and took her and the child home. My brother-in-law was scared, and seeing that the house my father bought for her had increased in value, he and his mother came to my house to kneel down and apologize to her, and from then on didn't dare to raise their voice at her anymore. I advised her to get a divorce, but she went back to her brother-in-law, blaming me for breaking up their marriage. My husband, Than Van, worked hard for more than 10 years and then was suddenly fired. He said the company was in trouble. It was inconvenient to ask for compensation. He didn't even take the last 2 months' salary. I saw his old company doing better and better, so I hired a lawyer to sue the company to get it all back. He used that money to open a company. I helped him take care of business manage workers. The company gradually stabilized. But then he criticized me for being calculating and for having an affair with a gentle mistress. In my previous life, I had worked hard for so many years, But in the end, my relatives considered me a woman who took advantage of me for free. In this life, I decided not to fight or steal to see how those kind and gentle people could live in peace. My father called me. Just like in my previous life, he told my second uncle to give me 300 yuan in salary. In my previous life, I rushed straight to ask for it. But in this life, I pretended not to understand, just gently said yes, yes, yes. My father started to get impatient. He thought that as soon as he said it, I would immediately rush to ask for the money for him, like every other time. He deliberately signaled with his eyes, but I still pretended not to understand. He had no choice but to say, "Your sister will come back this weekend. You should also come home for dinner." I agreed. In my previous life, when my sister Lai Tanyan was pregnant, my father and I were very worried that she would be bullied at her husband's house. The two of us pooled our money and bought her a house under her own name. Later, the house price increased, and I often helped her. Thanks to her support, she was respected by her mother-in-law and husband. In this life, I really looked forward to it. Without me being a bad guy, I wonder if that money can still be recovered. Without that house, can my sister still be a generous person? When she came home on the weekend, she and her brother-in-law returned empty-handed. She was pregnant, and as soon as she saw me, she cried and told me that she was still forced to cook by her mother-in-law while she was pregnant. In my previous life, after hearing this, I immediately rushed to her husband's house to cause trouble. But this time, I advised her mother-in-law is an adult anyway. Do it. Don't be so weak. My sister stood still and looked at me warily. She was about to say something more when brother-in-law Zhang Junji came over. She immediately fell silent. At this moment, my father pulled me out. No son about my salary. Can you go ask my second uncle again? I asked again. What else to ask? Didn't my second uncle already give me the money? Could it be that my father doubted my second uncle? My father quickly waved his hand. No, not doubting. It's just that why is it only 300 yuan? So my father knew. In my previous life, I said the amount was wrong. My father still defended my second uncle, saying that my younger brother would not lie. I personally went to get 10,000 yuan back. My father didn't thank me, but blamed me for embarrassing him in front of the relatives and neighbors. I coldly replied, I told you, you have to keep the money yourself. My father didn't listen. Now, if you doubt it, go ask yourself, Dad asked. Second uncle said there was only 300 yuan left. Then I was helpless. No matter how Dad hinted, I still pretended to be ignorant. Being an outsider was really fun. Dad cooked a lot of dishes at the dinner table, but I was only worried about eating. On the contrary, my sister's eyes kept glancing back and forth between me and Dad, not knowing what she was thinking. It wasn't until near the end of the meal that she spoke up. Dad, where did your salary go these past few years? I want to buy a house with Tuan Kiet. Dad just stuttered after hearing that, his eyes looking back at me. I smiled and said, Dad, second uncle already gave me the money. Why are you looking at me? My brother-in-law pulled my sister's hand back. What's wrong seeing that? Dad didn't reply. She said in a panic, Dad, I told Tuan Kiet everything. Didn't you say you would give me your salary before? After being pressed by my sister, Dad finally said it. No, Uncle Tu only gave Dad 100. My sister was startled and immediately stood up. Dad worked with Uncle for 3 years, living and eating right at the construction site. Dad didn't spend anything. Why is it only 300? Isn't it more than 10,000? Dad asked. He only said there were 300 left. Dad only brought back 300. My sister had no choice but to look at me. Why don't you help Dad ask Uncle Tu again? I waved my hand and shook my head, pretending to be innocent. I don't think Uncle Tu would go that far to trick me. You and Dad are weird. If you want money, go and get it yourself. I won't go anywhere. Whoever wants it, go and get it themselves. I don't lack money. My dad and sister are the kind of gentle people who are not used to arguing or fighting with anyone. If they can endure it, they endure it. Telling them to go and get the money is impossible. The atmosphere at the dining table suddenly became quiet. Seeing that my brother-in-law got angry and turned to curse my sister, "You useless woman, you tricked me into saying you got the money to buy a house." After cursing, he turned to look at me to investigate, because in the past, whenever he scolded my sister, I would rush in and beat her. But when I hit him, he was not afraid of anything. He had always avoided me because he was afraid of being beaten. But this time, seeing that I did not react, he became even more aggressive, not only scolding, but also slapping me. My father wanted to stop me, but seeing that my brother-in-law was so fierce, he also backed away, only turning to look at me, hoping that I would attack like before. My sister was beaten until she was dizzy. Her eyes looked at me with both pity and resentment. My brother-in-law had taught her correctly. How could she do such a thing? If she didn't have money, then why would she cheat people? How could she be like this? She held her cheek. The place where she had just been beaten was red, her eyes filled with anger. I smiled slightly. It seemed that my sister had come back to life. In the end, even though my sister and father did not want it, my brother-in-law still dragged the two of them to my second uncle's house to ask for money. At first, my second uncle denied it, but seeing that my father still maintained the same polite attitude as in his previous life, he was even more pleased. "Brother, the cost of living in the city is very high. Having 300 left is good. It's mealtime now, but you brought the whole family here to ask for money. Is that reasonable?" Hearing that my father immediately looked exactly like his previous life, his face fell and he apologized immediately. "No, it's not. It's your fault for disturbing everyone's meal. It's your daughter who insisted on coming here to ask for clarification. My image in the village has never been good. Whoever takes advantage of my family's position, I will go there and settle the score." When my second uncle heard about his daughter, he immediately frowned and looked at me. I spoke up to deny all responsibility. "It's not me, I believe my second uncle, it's my sister who doesn't." My sister glared at me sharply but was stared at by my brother-in-law, so she gritted her teeth and forced herself to speak. "Second uncle, it's not that I don't believe you, it's just that 300 is too little." Second uncle saw that I didn't open his mouth and started to make a fuss. "Okay, I feel sorry for you guys, I'll take out my own money to compensate you with 1,000. Of course my sister didn't agree. She was also resurrected, so she knew that my father's salary was at least more than 10,000. If she only received 1,000. Now it would be too much of a loss. Why only 1,000? My father's salary is at least 10,000 yuan. Oh my God, you better watch your words. There's no way. That's it. Ask your father, how does he normally treat your father? How could he embezzle 10,000 yuan? My sister turned her head to look at my father. "Dad, say something." My father looked at the crowd of neighbors who had come to watch the excitement standing in front of the door. His face was red. He lost all face. He just wanted to go back immediately. "Son, how about 1,000 then? 1,000, let's go back. Don't let people laugh at us." Why did my father say that? My sister felt extremely heartbroken after hearing that. Don't talk about being stingy with money, just the fact that she once bragged to her husband that she was going to have a house, but now if she didn't have that house, wouldn't she lose face to death? Now 10,000 yuan is only 1,000. Even in her dreams, she couldn't make up for it. Seeing my father being weak, my second uncle took advantage of the situation and smiled smugly. "There you should learn from your father a little. Don't be too calculating. I am your second uncle. Of yours you can definitely harm me. This 1,000 is because I respect you. Don't take advantage of the situation, otherwise you won't even have this 1,000. My sister exploded completely. "You're talking nonsense. You've clearly taken my father's money. I'm just demanding back what should belong to our family." Uncle Two didn't listen, turned around and tried to run into the house. My sister was afraid that he would run away, so she rushed to hold him back, but unexpectedly was pushed to the ground. My brother-in-law angrily rushed to fight with Uncle Two. My father tried to stop him, but was also pushed to the ground. As a result, my father suffered a back injury. My sister had a miscarriage and gave birth prematurely. Uncle Two was beaten and had many broken bones. All three of them were taken to the hospital. My brother-in-law was arrested by the police for intentional injury. I was the only one left in the hospital to look after my sister because my sister was very agitated and the fall led to premature birth. As a result, her body was seriously damaged. The doctor diagnosed that she could not have more children, every time. After giving birth, my sister's mother-in-law also rushed to the hospital. Hearing that she gave birth to a daughter and was no longer able to give birth, she immediately cursed her in front of everyone. "It's all because of you, that my child has to go to jail. If it weren't for you, she wouldn't have ended up like this. She even gave birth to a useless child. The older and younger ones are all useless, all broom stars. Why did my Lee family bring home an unlucky thing like you? Get lost tomorrow. I'll tell my son to write a divorce petition, get rid of a hen that can't lay eggs like you, and return the dowry to me. Giving birth to a useless, rootless thing, you're not worthy." In my previous life, my sister had me to protect her, but as soon as her mother-in-law opened her mouth, I scolded her. She said something, I slapped her, then I took her home, determined not to let her come back and suffer humiliation. In this life, I stood silently and watched her being cursed. She couldn't stand it anymore, so she turned to look at me, hoping I would defend her. "Sister, what people said is true. This matter is indeed your fault. Look, if you hadn't insisted on asking for money, my brother-in-law wouldn't be sitting in detention now, and who knows, he might even have a criminal record." My sister's mother-in-law nodded in satisfaction and agreed. "That's right, if this matter causes my son to lose his job, I will definitely not forgive you. Wait and see how I will deal with you when I get back." My sister didn't dare to say anything in return. She could only lower her head and cry silently. After the mother-in-law cursed, she felt unlucky, didn't even look at her niece, and immediately turned back home to visit her precious son. As soon as my mother-in-law left, she turned to scold me. "Why did you stand there and watch her scold me like that?" She said something so harsh and I didn't stop her. She had just given birth. In my previous life, I scolded my mother-in-law for her. She said I didn't respect elders and then played the role of peacemaker. Later, she said I shouldn't interfere in her family's affairs. Now I pretended to be deaf and blind, and she blamed me for not defending her. I pretended to be pitiful and resentful and replied, "Sister, she is an adult after all. Besides, I don't dare to interfere in your family's affairs. Also, don't blame me for not reminding you. You still have to go back to your mother-in-law's house to give birth. She's still the one taking care of you. Even if she says a few words, you should try to bear it." My sister's face turned pale, not daring to imagine such a scene. She held my hand, pleading, "Sister, can you let me stay at your house while I'm confinement?" "What are you joking about? Who would ever stay at their sister's house while they're confinement? Didn't you plan to buy a house for me with my father before you can lend me money?" "I'll pay you back later. My sister still hasn't given up hoping that I will spend money to buy a house for her like in my previous life." I pulled my hand back and pretended to be regretful. What else could she dream about a house I work at Than Van? The company is doing poorly now. I'm afraid it will be cut. And about my second uncle being beaten by my brother-in-law and having to go to the emergency room. He definitely has to pay a pretty penny in compensation. Does our family have money to pay compensation? My sister's face was pale. He deserved it. Why would they ask our family to pay compensation, including my father's back pain, the medical expenses, and the future care? She just gave birth the money for milk and school fees for the children. In the future won't be small, I just calmly told her each expense. After listening, her face turned pale, knowing that buying a house was hopeless. She cried, "I really can't help you." "No, have you forgotten? When you got married, what did you say? Tell me not to interfere in your business anymore. I did it. What are you crying for now? After I saw you off, I went to settle the matter at my second uncle's house. My second uncle's daughter is not an unreasonable person. I told her everything. I said that although my brother-in-law and father beat someone, it was because my second uncle intentionally caused trouble that my sister gave birth prematurely, seriously damaging her health, so both sides considered it even. I would split my father's salary in half to pay for my second uncle's hospital fees, and there was no need to pursue the rest. After hearing this, she also knew that my second uncle was at fault, returned the money to me immediately, and agreed not to make a big deal out of it. I went back to visit my father. Luckily, he was not seriously injured, just had a stiff back and could not do any heavy work for a while. When my father saw me coming back, he hurriedly asked, "How is Nun?" after I told him I gave him all the money I had asked for back, and looked at him seriously and said, "Dad, you keep this money to take care of your old age. From now on, I will not speak up for you anymore." Before Dad hid behind Mum and left everything to Mum and me to solve. After Mum passed away, Dad hid behind me again. Because Dad refused to take the lead, the villagers looked down on our whole family. If Dad doesn't want to continue being bullied, he should think about how he should live. As for the money, I'll tell my sister that I used it to pay for Uncle Two's hospital fees. As for her dad, if you want to help, then help, but I have to remind Dad that if she doesn't divorce, she will be bullied by her husband for the rest of her life. If you give this money, it's for your brother-in-law to spend. If Dad doesn't want his hard-earned money to go to waste, he should keep it. At least when she's kicked out of the house, she'll still have some money to raise her children. I know for sure that she'll come back to Dad to ask for the money, but he earned it. How he spends it is his right. I won't interfere in their business anymore. Dad looked at me and asked, "Son, can't it be like before? Isn't that better?" "It's not good, Dad," I replied, "because the one who always suffers is me. I have to fight hard. I don't want to be bullied. I don't want to be like you. I just want to protect my family. But in the end, the people who take advantage of me the most are the people I love." "I'm so tired, Dad." When we got home, Song Cheng-yun told me that he was fired. Song Cheng-yun and I were old classmates. He looked good, and his personality was very similar to my dad. At that time, I knew I was a strong person, so I wanted to marry someone who was obedient and humble. Song Cheng-yun didn't have any opinions, but he was gentle. His family background was ordinary, but he was hard-working and diligent. His mother-in-law was easygoing and never made things difficult for him. He listened to everything he said, so I married him. After we got married, I took care of all the big and small things in the house. Although he was just a lowly employee, he was willing to do housework. He also gave me all his salary, so I was very satisfied. Until we started a business together. When he was successful, he began to change. He criticized me for being calculating when doing business, didn't like me being strong in managing lazy workers, and hated me for always having messy hair and no makeup. He felt that I, the person who had overcome difficulties with him, was no longer worthy of his status as a successful boss. But because he was stingy with money and didn't want to get divorced and have to divide the assets, he secretly found a gentler mistress. While I was busy running around taking care of contracts, he embraced the mistress and enjoyed it with the money I earned. In my previous life, it wasn't until I was about to die that I realized he had changed his mind. It doesn't matter in this life. I want to see if I hadn't calculated every move, would he still be successful? Because starting a company doesn't just require good ethics and a progressive spirit. Without me finding customers, negotiating contracts, hiring workers, his gentle and weak personality would be led by the nose. Would he just be fired like that? A good person like him doesn't even ask for his salary. I asked, if you were a business owner, you would definitely like an employee like me. Song Cheng-yun wasn't as disappointed as he was in his previous life and just replied lightly, "Yeah, they said the company was having a hard time, so I didn't bother asking anymore." "That's great. Why am I telling you? Do you want me to ask for it?" He looked at me as if he also realized that I had changed, hesitated for a moment, then said, "No, I plan to use my family's savings to start a business. Don't worry, I will definitely succeed. When I make money, this little bit of money won't be worth much." I looked at him. So it turns out that I'm not the only one who's reborn. I immediately refused. I don't plan to support anyone else in this life. He saw my attitude and understood. Putting on the appearance of a CEO who was looking for a life, he said he wanted a divorce. He thought that in my previous life I relied on him to get everything. In this life, he didn't want to give me a single cent. I agreed right away to save myself the trouble of long-winded persuasion. We went to the Civil Affairs Bureau to file for divorce. The house was my premarital property and the money was divided. After my mother-in-law found out, she even came to advise me not to get a divorce. But then she was persuaded by Song Chung-yun. She also thought that her son would become rich in the future and could marry someone better. As for me, a shrewish woman like me was not worthy of being Song Chung-yun's future CEO wife. Song Chung-yun still wanted to follow the path of starting a business like in his previous life, but he had been used to sitting around and enjoying a golden bowl for too long, forgetting that before he became successful, he had to invest a lot. In my previous life, I had to run the market for months to get my first contract. Then by luck I got a big order, but the conditions were strict and risky. I went to the market myself to find raw materials, directly supervising the workers to ensure that each step was perfect. The road to success is both hard work and luck. In this life, based on my previous life's experience and the current market situation, I chose a different path. My father eventually did not give my sister money. She could not get it back after being discharged from the hospital. Her husband beat her and kicked her out of the house. Her husband's family also asked for the money for the birth ceremony back. At first, she still did not give up. She kept clinging and refused to leave. As a result, her mother-in-law treated her like a maid, did not give her proper food, forced her to do laundry and cook even during her confinement period. Her husband treated her like a useless person, drank and played cards all day, and beat her if he was not satisfied. She endured until she couldn't stand it anymore and called me for help. "Sister, my brother-in-law beat me again. Can you help me? If I were home, he wouldn't dare to beat me anymore. Sister, I won't help. If you don't want a divorce, then keep enduring it." "But how can you get a divorce? He is the father of your child. You can't have another child. Who would want you after a divorce?" I hung up and blocked her number. Later, my father told me that she was beaten until she couldn't stand it anymore and finally agreed to divorce, but she left her child for him to take care of. I told my father to rest assured and raise the child. I would take care of the expenses. When she heard that I had divorced Song Chung-yun, she suddenly remembered Song Chung-yun's success in her previous life, so she ran to find him and offered herself to him. Song Chung-yun saw that she was pretty and brought a large sum of money, so he didn't refuse. He let her stay by his side and work like a horse for free. The two of them opened a company and just started thinking they were big bosses, ordering suppliers as if they were kings, being both cowardly and domineering, never bargaining or checking goods. The suppliers warmly called them boss and boss on the surface, but behind their backs they laughed at them, saying they were a couple of fools with a lot of money, easy to trick like sheep. Without any orders and having to support employees just a few months later, Tong Tan Van had spent all the money in his hand. He was still confident because in his previous life he had to wait a long time for a contract. So this time he risked his life by mortgaging his old house to the bank. My sister was even worse. She spent all her personal assets, borrowed more than $30,000 online without a contract, without a document, and gave a pile of money to Tong Tan Van. Fortunately, her luck had not run out completely. Thanks to her memories from her previous life, Tong Tan Van actually signed a big contract. One time I went to the market to buy raw materials and happened to meet Tong Tan Van and her. My sister wore a luxurious fur coat and put on bright makeup. As soon as she saw me, she immediately walked over with her arm around Tong Chung-yun, looking arrogant. Hey, look at you, how are you dressed so rustic? Do you need me to buy you a shirt to make you look presentable? I didn't bother to care, just replied lightly, Hey, at least you don't need to borrow money to buy clothes. She snorted coldly. Who do you think you are? Now you're an old maid that no one cares about. I smiled. Huh, are you two married, or is it that Tong still hasn't given you a title? It's true that Tong Chengyun doesn't want to marry my sister. He despises the fact that you can't have children anymore. Marrying you is no different from cutting off your descendants. So you're just a bedmate. You haven't even set foot in his house. Every word I said was like a knife stabbing into her heart. Her face turned red with anger. I turned around and left without arguing. I came to the market to do business, not to argue with some delusional people. A few months later, my business partner told me that Tong Tan Van was really stupid when cooperating. He gave all the profits to the other party. At first, the ordering party was still excited, but when they received the goods, they were shocked all the goods were defective, could not be used. It turned out that the supplier found him easy to lure, so they sold him all the goods that were both expensive and fake. The raw materials were bad, and the workers found him easygoing, so they were lazy and shirked their work to get it done. Song Chungyun begged and pleaded, but no one paid any attention. The shipment was delayed again and again. When the other side was in such a hurry, he had to drag his family members into the job to deliver it on time. The result was still a bunch of defective goods that were useless, and now he would have to pay a large sum of compensation. I nodded. I had guessed this a long time ago, but I didn't expect my sister to be so foolish. Because she wanted to be with Song Chengyun, she accepted an online loan. A few days ago, I received a call from a debt collector. They said my sister had borrowed 30,000 and it was overdue for a month. They asked me where she lived. I replied, She and I have no relationship. I don't know where she lives and I don't intend to pay for her. Don't call again or I'll sue you guys for debt collection terrorism. Only then did they stop bothering me. When the company was about to go bankrupt, Song Chung-yun began to realize that his success in his previous life was all thanks to me. He may not have needed compensation, but the employees did not. Seeing that the company was about to collapse, afraid of losing their salary, they blocked Song Chung-yun's way from leaving the company. My sister saw that the situation was too tense and ran away, but he had to write IOUs for each person before he was released. He came to my company headquarters to see me, but was stopped by security. At first, I did not intend to meet him, but he made up a fuss at the gate every day, even called the press to say that I looked down on people because I had money, and even made up stories saying that I had asked for a divorce as soon as I was fired from the company. Netizens who did not know the ins and outs listened to him and scolded me for being a gold digger and for leaving my husband for money. With no other choice, I had to meet him once. As soon as he saw me, he knelt down crying and begging, "It's my fault, don't leave me okay." I signaled the security to pull him away to prevent him from doing anything reckless. Tong Than Van, enough, you were the one who asked for a divorce first. After the divorce, you still had an affair with my sister. Now you still want to defame me. What right do you have to ask for forgiveness? It's just because you owe a lot of money and you failed miserably, so you came back to find me. What do you think I am? Do you want me to post pictures of you and my sister online? I said loudly. Everyone around heard it. Everyone looked at him with disgust. It was impossible to think he was a decent person. Who would have thought he would have an affair with his wife's sister? So disgusting. It turns out he's the kind of heartless man he's in debt, and then remembers his ex-wife. His face is really drunk. Song Chung-yun blushed, lowered his head and muttered, "It's not your fault. Can you forgive me? Let's go back to the way we were. I don't want to. If you come here to cause trouble again, I'll call the police to arrest you." He walked away dejectedly. I posted an explanation of the whole incident online. Netizens turned around and supported me, and my business also flourished. As for Song Chung-yun, he was in debt, unable to find a decent job, and could only work as a factory worker to pay off his debt. But the amount of money he owed was so much that he wouldn't be able to pay it all in his lifetime. His family was constantly harassed by debt collectors, and his parents also cut off ties. He lived in fear every day, only dreaming that he was still the CEO and that he would be praised like in his previous life. The last time I heard from her was when the police came to me. They said that my sister had poisoned and stabbed Lee Junji's entire family to death. It turned out that after she left her husband's house, Lee Tuan-kia became more and more depraved, gambling all day long and was in debt. After losing all his money, he thought of my sister and came to ask for money. She had no money left and had hundreds of millions in debt that she had not yet paid. Lee Tuan-kiet threatened her, forcing her to sell her body to earn money for him. Unable to bear the humiliation, she put drugs in the rice and stabbed her whole family to death. The neighbors heard her screams and called the police. When she was arrested, she was still holding a knife and rushing towards her. Because of the seriousness of her crime, she was sentenced to death. I went to visit her in prison. She cried and said that she was wrong, she should have listened to me earlier. She said she really wanted to go back to the past. In her previous life, she lived happily with my help. Her husband and mother-in-law did not dare to do anything. Now she regrets it so much. Oh, it's a pity that in this life she is a murderer. It is best to enjoy the remaining days and not accept my apology. And from now on, your daughter will call me Mum. Don't even dream of seeing her again in this life. I went home to visit. My father was taking care of my sister in the camp and 100 children who were only 2 or 3 years old. In just a short time, his hair turned white. The little girl was very obedient, sitting alone on the bed without crying or fussing. In her previous life, my sister gave birth to another son. The older sister was always abandoned, having to use her younger brother's leftovers. I loved her often, bought her own things. She was a grateful, obedient child and was the only one who took care of me when I was seriously ill. Before I died, she quit her job to be with me. She was the only one in the family to be with me until the end. I don't plan on getting married in this life. She is my child. She and I will definitely have a better life. Thank you for listening to the story at Ken Stories. I hope you have relaxing and fun moments. Don't forget to give me a like and subscriber so I have more motivation to make more videos.